If you're a fan of anime, then you should know that one of the best new gen series is about to drop, and in this video I'll be explaining everything you need to know. Mashle is a show that takes heavy inspiration from the comedic tone of One Punch Man, the magic of Harry Potter, and has a main character who was partly influenced by Jotaro Kujo. In my opinion, if you're a fan of JoJo's, My Hero, Black Clover, or any of the things I already mentioned, then there's a high chance you're probably going to like this series as well. That being said, in case you're still not sure about everything, then let's dive into all the reasons why you should check it out. Okay, so Mashle is set in a magic-based society where nearly everyone is born with a magic mark on their face. As you can see, the marks come in different shapes and sizes, and while most humans are born with just one line, any child born with 2 lines is considered to have an insane amount of magic potential. On average, out of every 100,000 people, only 1 will be a double line magic user, and people with 3 lines are even more difficult to find. This is what brings us to Easton Academy, which is a super prestigious magic school based off Hogwarts, where the best of the best learn to become wizards. What's important to know about this place is that each student gets placed into one of these 3 houses, and most of the characters that we care about are in House Adler. Historically, Adler is basically like Gryffindor in that it represents bravery and conviction, and it's normal for people in this house to have good intentions behind why they do what they do. By contrast, House Lang represents ambition and talent, and many of the students here come from rich families who value the importance of bloodlines above everything else. In season 1 of Mashle, one of the most interesting things that we'll see is how the rivalry develops between Lang and Adler, because all the different houses are fighting for one thing. Each year, a single student from Easton is chosen to become the Divine Visionary, which is a title that almost everybody wants for their own reasons. The Divine Visionary is a student said to be chosen by God himself, and the title comes with wealth, status, and a leadership position inside the Bureau of Magic. The Bureau of Magic are the ones who essentially decide how society is run, and so any character who wants to change the world in some way, they need to become a Divine Visionary before their time at Easton is over. This means that the rivalry between Lang and Adler will impact the future of the whole country, since you have wizards who want to make society better for the magical elite, versus those who want to make things better for people who don't have any magic. In this series, any child born without a magic mark is required to be handed over to the government, and if a parent was to hide their child to try and protect them, then they'd be guilty of a serious crime. On top of that, even if someone was born with magic but then loses it for some reason, even they need to be handed over, since magicless people aren't allowed to mix with everyone else. The unfairness of this society is something that none of the main characters agree with, and it's time to do a quick rundown of what each of them represent. To start things off, we have Mash Burndead, who's a guy that spent most of his life hitting the weights and eating cream puffs. Years ago, Mash was one of the few humans born into the world without a magic mark, but instead of being turned over to the Bureau, his adopted dad hid him away in a forest to keep him safe. Ever since then, he's been following a consistent training routine, which his dad made him do so that, in the future he could defend himself from magic users. Now, without going into spoilers, a series of events take place that force Mash, a person without any magic, to try and become the next Divine Visionary. Although a task like that should be impossible, his muscles combined with his natural instincts mean that he is able to navigate through Easton even without magic talent. When it comes to his personality, Mash has 2 sides to him depending on the situation, because in the moments where he needs to be serious, he 100% reminds me of Jotaro. An example of this is how he always stays completely cool regardless of how bad things might look, and also how he's able to creatively defeat his opponents in ways that no one else would even think of. He also doesn't like to say too many words, but instead relies on short phrases to trash talk his enemies, and he only really gets angry if someone hurts his friends. However, although Mash demonstrates high amounts of intelligence during a fight, in normal circumstances he does lack a lot of common sense, and he won't realize things that would be obvious to most people. Part of the reason for this might be the fact that he was raised separately from other humans, and so he's missing a lot of the life experiences that most people have. One final thing to say about this character is that he is completely obsessed with eating cream puffs, and he'll carry one with him at pretty much all times. Next up, we have Lance Crown, who's a powerful double-line magic user looking to become the next Divine Visionary. Lance comes from a relatively well-known family who are famous for their gravity magic, and as a member of House Adler, he has a noble reason for why he wants to change magic society. His personality can be summarized as being brave, confident, strong-willed, and protective over his sister. Moving on to Dot, this guy is one of Mash's most interesting friends, and he's shown to have a huge amount of magic potential, especially for someone who only has a single line. His explosion magic fits in well with his fiery personality, and he's proven himself time and time again to have a ton of guts. Finally, Finn and Lemon are the last two people in the group, and they both have a special relationship with Mash. In Lemon's case, she has a huge crush on him and mistakenly believes that he agreed to marry her, while Finn is his roommate and his first real friend. Although Finn is the weakest in the group, he can sometimes be brave if it's, to help his friends, and he also has an intriguing relationship with his super powerful older brother who goes to the same school. If any of you guys have seen Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, it's basically like the Cyrus and Zane relationship, where you have the, respected older sibling who kind of, doesn't seem to respect the younger sibling that much. Anyhow, in terms of what to expect from the series overall, we need to remember that despite the political and sometimes philosophical topics that the show talks about, this is still a comedy first and a battle shonen second. One of the best things about Mashle is watching other characters react to Mash's insane feats of strength as he constantly breaks the rules of magic, science, and life and death. Another great thing is the world building, because throughout the series we fully get to see the inner workings of the bureau, the school, organized crime, and other cool things that make this series feel really full. The headmaster of Easton is also a strong Dumbledore type character with a mysterious past, and even Mash himself also has interesting things about his backstory that will likely be hinted at in the first season. With that said, I'll be watching the show when it drops on the 7th of April, and I hope that this video convinced at least some of you to give it a go if you hadn't heard of it until today. Until the next one, peace out.